Yeah. So the REST APIs using Spring Boot and microservices. So we will see all the frameworks with the help of some CRUD operations. So that, I mean, even though you join in a job, so the first thing you might be seeing in most of the projects will be specifically with the backend development. So developing APIs. So how the API will be there, and how to call them, what all the how to develop an API, and how to interact with database. So what is the existing frameworks with respect to this ORM configurations of database? All this stuff we will see. And then before all this, we will learn a basic project architecture, so that accordingly your tasks, I mean, depends on your project architecture. You need to know in which part of the architecture you will be working on. And specifically with SQL, so you need to know at least some basic um, SQL queries like insert, update, delete, like creating tables, etc. So all these steps you can practice using even the H2 console, I mean, like in memory database, so which I will be showing now. So using that as well, you can practice your SQL knowledge in the upcoming days. So this is the one, I mean, with core Java and with no, I mean, with the minimal knowledge of this framework stuff, so you are good to start any job in the market basically. So it's not something, Java is huge, yes, that's right, but you don't need to have all the stuff upfront. Even though you have all the stuff, when you join in a job, there will be a different story altogether. So so that's why it's better, don't feel like that. So you might not learn all the stuff and you're not ready for the job, so never have that. So even the person who is working for 10 years experience, he will not be having all the knowledge with him. So whatever knowledge you got it, so try to think on it and practice it much, so that in a few days of like 3 to 4 months of work experience, you will also be in a position that handle the job on your own. So that's the target for this, because this is one of the good program I feel personally. Because so far when we are learning specifically, we need to go for 6 months, 8 months, almost 1 year of Java training, so that we will be still have a lot of things to learn. Because but this training is basically like industry oriented, so you can be hands on with all the major topics, and you are good to answer any basic questions on your own once this training is completed. So that don't lose any confidence at any time. Gather these videos. Anyways, we have recorded almost all the sessions, so those are necessary, those are sufficient for you guys to move forward and start the practice, so that you will be in a good position. As part of this one, um, yeah, first we will see what is the project architecture. Okay, so an ideal project which you will be working in Java, like um, let me take a paint here. Hope my screen is visible for all of you. Yeah,
Oh, we don't see the paint.
you don't see it.
I think you have to shade that window.
uh, I have shared all the windows. No, this. Let me do one. Okay, I think now you will be able to see it.
Yeah.
Okay. This paint is new. Mm. Okay, so in an ideal project, um, so you'll be having almost the same structure. So there will be an UI application, UI projects. So this can be in any language, um, with HTML, um, JavaScript based functions, or Angular, which is the latest framework. Or you will see some React applications, Node.js. So using all these technologies, you will see the UI applications. And these UI applications will be calling a backend application, which might also be in any other language, like which might be in Java, .NET, I think Python. Like this, you will have this stuff, and you will have a database. Something like this. So this we will call, nowadays there is no SQL as well. So you can consider, ideally we call them as RDBMS. relational database management systems. So these RDBMS could be of Oracle based MySQL or Microsoft SQL Server, several other things. So ideal flow will be like this. The API UI applications will be calling backend applications, and backend might be I can write backend here. Calling the DB, and if some request coming, you are aware, right? You will see. So how many of you are aware about this structure already? Uh, You are aware. Okay. How about you, Datta? No.
I know the RDMS.
RDBMS.
Yeah,
Okay.
RDBMS.
How about you, Kiran? Sai Kiran?
I know the MySQL, little bit about MongoDB.
Okay, that's about database, but I'm
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
about the architecture. So this
Uh,
project architecture, are you already aware, or
yes, yes, I aware.
you're aware? Okay, okay,
Yeah.
nice. Kiran?
Yeah, yes, Kalyan, I'm aware of them.
Okay, great. So this will be ideal structure. So basically we see the applications on online, right? Like if we are having some Facebook application or any e-commerce application, so we will see an UI and they'll be calling the APIs in the backend. So those APIs will be accepting the request and processing the request and returning the data, which they can retrieve. So these APIs in the backend, they might be getting the data either from database or from other API requests again. So there'll be several things. So ideally, the structure will be like this. So in this overall structure, now we're specifically going into Java part. Okay. So let me take this off. Maybe I'll take a new one. So in Java, what will be the structure? I mean, specifically the area where we see Java here. So we're going deep into this part now. Okay. So APIs, I Jitendra. Okay, hi.
So skill plus ఉందా లేదా మొత్తం జావా
మోస్ట్లీ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్స్ పైన ఉంటుందండి. ఎస్క్యూఎల్ అదే మధ్య మధ్యలో బేస్డ్ ఆన్ నెసెసిటీ.
ఓకే అంటే బేసిక్గా వీళ్ళు వచ్చినప్పుడు ఎస్క్యూఎల్ కోసం
ఓకే ఓకే
సో అది మరి
కొంచెం కవర్ చేస్తాం.
కవర్ చేస్తాం.
Yeah.
ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఎస్క్యూఎల్ స్టార్ట్ చేయట్లేదు కదా.
ఇంకా స్టార్ట్ చేయట్లేదు.
సో విల్ టేక్ మాక్ ఇంటర్వ్యూస్ ఫర్ యూ. It's until 8:30 something like that, and then can continue with skill sessions afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone of you can anyone of you can come to the room so that
Mhm.
we'll take the mock interview.
Yeah, with respect to Java, so if you take REST framework, I mean REST and microservices framework, so there'll be two kind of applications. So one is monolith application, and other one is microservice architecture. Okay, based application. So this is one of the interview questions you might also be looking at. So monolith application is basically having all the code. I mean, this is a I mean, kind of older architecture, but still many projects will be following the same architecture, which are the existing or legacy applications. They until they migrate to microservice architecture, they'll be using the same one. So to understand monolith, what is a monolith application is basically having all the code. I mean, suppose if you take an application of a banking application, you will have like you will have transfer section, I mean account transfer section. You will have the balance maintenance session, maintenance sections, and there'll be different kinds of a business. Like in banks there'll be loans department as well, and in banks there might be an insurance department as well. So based on a business perspective, even though they have a different business models in their bank, so all the application, one application is maintaining all the business models. One application is archived with all the business with all the business logic, I can say. Okay, so business logic, you may, I mean, you can understand like various departments of their business. Suppose if you take an e-commerce application, you might be maintaining new products which are coming into the application. I mean, and then payment section, like if someone is paying or buying a product specific to that particular user, um, what is the balance available, if there is some wallet is maintained in that logged in user, so what is the balance available and what are the transactions that he has been performing. And based on his transactions, if he wanted to manage the users, suppose if specific user is so far doing all these transactions, and you want to show specific suggestions for him based on his search or based on his purchase records, and then you want to have separate business logic and separate environment for his user management, and also you will have authorization based. Suppose if you take a e-commerce application, you will have one user who is selling the product and another user who is buying the product. So it's a medium platform between both of them, so you need to manage different roles there. I mean, seller and buyer both are users, but they have different authorization to the application. So such kind of management have to be done, all these things. So irrespective of all the different business scenarios, they used to maintain one application for all this stuff. And suppose if any problem is happening at one place, and what happens is I need to develop and modify the code. I need to modify the code and then deploy. So when you deploy next time, so the whole project has been deployed. So if suppose a payment section has a problem and we are deploying user management projects, and and product maintenance projects, and also we are maintaining, we are deploying um, insurance related, suppose in a banking application. So all the things if we are deploying, so it's a duty for all the testers as well, so to test all the modules if everything is working fine or not after the deployment. So if it's automation is already working on, it might be less time, but if it is manual stuff, so there will be huge amount of time that will be consuming for the testers. So to avoid all these implications, so the latest architecture, which is microservice based architecture, where the projects will be separated based on business requirement. Okay, suppose if you see, as we discussed, so if we have a different kind of businesses, let's separate different, let's have different projects, like for payments one project, and for ATM transactions, if someone is doing any ATM, if banking application is want to have the ATM transactions in a separate project, so then they can go for different project for it, and like this. So for each department, they can have different project, and if some problem occurs at specific project, they can directly go into that particular application and modify the code and redeploy it. So it will be easy and plug and play task for everyone to handle um, the overall applications. Like you don't need to worry about all the other modules, even though the problem is occurring at one specific place. So that's why the microservice architecture is most popular one these days, and you will see almost all the latest projects will be with this architecture of Java. Okay, so this is one key thing you have to understand. So in microservice architecture of our Java backend part, so we will be mostly focusing on the API development. So what is an API? Anyone has any idea? Do you know?
Uh, I use interface.
Uh, User interface? I mean,
But I stands for
Application interface.
okay. Okay. Kiran, yeah, abbreviation is okay, but still, what API's job is? I mean,
For
as
example,
yeah,
yeah, in the front end, for example, in the front end side, we are creating any screens like that, like phone number or anything, some data will be come from the back end side, like APIs,
okay, okay,
like numbers. For example, any phone number that like
yes, yes, okay. Kiran, you have any idea?
Yeah, I mean, like you are, it's like calling in particular set of data. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to access a column or row in the database by just, I mean, you can enter by the like a row number so that you can just like you can get the data of that row, like if it's having its name on address or phone number, anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's also right. Um, yes, the abbreviation basically is application programming interface. Okay, so far we were looking, if you have observed, I've been searching for, suppose if it is a scanner class, so Java API docs. I was searching like this, right? So this is a kind of, I mean, API is basically having a group of requests or group of instructions that a person who is consuming these APIs will be there. To understand the business logic and what is this particular APIs have been doing. I mean, suppose if you are going to have again the example is for with bank application. Okay, so if you are having a savings account, so then once you log into this bank application, and you have to enter the username password and then click on login. So what is happening on behind the screen is, so it is collecting this username password. It should be collecting this username password and validating this username password with the database, right? So like this, I was shown here in the UI. You will be entering the username password, and that will be passed to backend. So the passing the username password to the backend will be there passing to the APIs. Okay, and that particular username password is validated with the database. Okay, if this username and password is available in the database or not, and then they will be getting the response from the database, processing that response and returning to the UI like this user is valid or invalid. That is one kind of example. And yeah, let me take another example, like deposit transaction. Suppose if someone is performing a deposit through an ATM. Okay, so here the UI application might be different. I mean, not HTML, JavaScript, Angular, React, none of them. So there might be some different programming language they might be using, whatever it is. So they'll be updating, they'll be calling API like this, but with the account number. This particular account number has this much amount of deposit. Okay, update our records. So then the API will be triggered, like passing the account number and the balance that is deposited. So then our API, what it will do, it will connect to the database and it will call the database and update for that specific account number. So for the existing balance, suppose if $1,000 is already available, so the $500 has been deposited. So then update the balance to 1,500, something like that. So that business logic will be executing here and updating the records. So such way you can understand, like let me open our idea where we have done some methods, right? Some logic or functions. So at the granular level, if you observe all these functionalities, suppose let me take another example, like a payment, a e-commerce application where there is payment is being done. So suppose once a person clicks on pay now, so of course when they click on pay now, there will be one payment gateway which will be coming into the picture between our between our database and backend. Okay, so they will be, initially once they click on pay now, our backend application will be triggered. So when they are passing all the bank card details, they'll be capturing the card details and passing to some payment gateway, that these card details want to, from these card details we wanted to deduct this amount. So that payment gateway might be interacting with some bank servers, they will be retrieving the data. So again, what is happening in this case? So in the first case, for logging validation, you're passing username password to validate against the database. And in the second case, you're passing account number and deposited amount. And in the third case, you're giving card details to process the transaction. So in every case, you might be passing something or not. In some cases, like I want to know the balance of my account. So in that case, you might be just passing the account number and getting the balance. In assume in some other case, like a new user has to be registered, so that time you will be entering all the details and pass those details to the backend. So they'll be registering the user and responding you like this user has been registered successfully, something. So in all these cases, you're interacting with some person in the backend, right? So but in a way that you'll be passing something and expecting something to be done by the backend functionality. So that is basically in a granular level, if you have observed. So that will be what, um, if you see, let me open our core Java project. There will be a method get value, right? So you're just passing something and getting a value. And when you see, so this same get value here as well, set example, and the main method. Assume like there is a add method in list interface. So what it will be doing, it is accepting a value to be added um, to the list. And then we have already seen this. What else I can show? Examples. Suppose there is a search operation which we have performed on the list. So that is also one kind of a method where you're just passing name, and this name, it's taking into the server and validating if that particular name is available in the list or not. So something like this, there will be several kind of methods, okay, to perform these operations. So even though you call them as APIs, so at the end they will be methods in Java. Okay, so you might be calling an API from the UI application, as we have seen here. Where is this? Right, you might be calling an API here, but in the code level, in the Java architecture level, you might be seeing them as a methods. So like our functions, so whatever it is, but there will be some naming conventions for them and some ways how to call those methods. What are the important terminologies that you have to remember when you are calling those methods, or including all those stuff, they are finally named them as APIs. So every API, every specific method will have some specific functionalities to be performing, right? They might be adding a user, deleting a user, or updating a user data into the database, or they might be um, what do you say? Read. They might be getting the data from the database. So all these kind of operations will be performing onto the database using those APIs, or either to the database, or they might be calling some other services to process the data. So ultimately, um, that is the agenda of any APIs. Okay, so they might be instructions. This is called instructions of a specific functionality called as APIs. We will be instructions on a specific functionality called as APIs. Okay. Mm, that's about APIs. In the Java application based architecture, okay, so right now we have seen all this overall application, right, specific to Java. you will have controller package in any project. Wherever you go, if the project is of API based, you will have controller, and you might be having service packages, and you might be having entity packages, and before entity there will be repository package. Mm, yeah, so almost this is the architecture you might be seeing in every projects. Okay, in whatever it is the project you see. So what is controller is doing here? So it's a first place where the request will be received. Okay, so when you call an API, so the first step it is touching the API is controller. Okay, and then from controller the flow will be going to service to execute the business logic. Okay, so if you want to write any logic and execute some operations, you have to mostly do them in the service package classes. Okay, so controller is basically it should be a class in the package called controller, and any service any service class will also be a class under the service package. And repository is basically an interface to communicate with the database. An entity is a model. You might heard that like there will be a class. Suppose if employee is a class, then he will be having a name, and we have already seen that in the previous examples. um, Names is not something new examples. Getter setters. Okay, we have not declared a thing. Okay, we have not seen that, so we will see them. Entity is basically a model where you will have variables in the model and getters and setters. Okay, so these are all the several sections of your backend application you will be having. And when a request is coming, that will first come to controller. From there it will go to service class, where the business logic will be executing, even though I'm calling class. So you have to understand that the execution will be happening within the method. Okay, so the logic will be there in the method. And there'll be a repository is basically an interface to communicate with the database. You see here, so from our application we are writing service, and at the end we have to interact with the database, right? So that connection to the database and dealing with database section will be handled by repository package here. Okay, and then entity is basically a model where we will have a group of a structure of object which we are populating, which we are storing in the database here, which we are storing in our application. Yeah, so that is about broad level architecture. And with respect to technical stack, uh, so right now we're going to use, as we have already written here, we are going to use Spring Boot, microservices, Hibernate, and JPA, SQL. So these are the technicalities that we are going to use in our using the above technologies. We'll be writing CRUD application now. Okay. Assume like there is an application. There is a what we can do. Third application. What I can do? Which one would be better? So like bank stuff. Okay, let me do with the bank thing. CRUD bank balance maintenance. Okay, so this is the application right now we're going to look at. So we will take an account holder. Assume that we will take an account as a model, and then we will have some data like balance of this account and account holder name, and we will try to add some balance and remove some balance from that account by using the database called H2. So here SQL, RDBMS, we are using, so not Oracle, MySQL or SQL Server, we are simply using an in-memory database, which is H2 database. So with that, we don't need to install our SQL Server or something like that in our laptop or machine. So we can directly go with the application flow and try to validate the queries however we want. Okay, so first let's create a Spring Boot application, which is of microservices architecture based. So even though it's microservices architecture based, you will see the microservice architecture, especially when you're dealing with multiple projects um, in your with your application. So you might not be hearing much about this in my explanation from here, other than this discussion on monolith and microservice architecture. Rare later part of time we will discuss some features of this microservice additional to this, but this explanation should be sufficient to move forward, and you will learn more about it later. And I wanted to create a Spring Boot application. Before we start with Spring Boot application, let me give some other technologies that are there between core Java and Java frameworks. I mean, latest Spring Boot, other Java frameworks. Okay, I'll just give a overview of them. What are they? Like we were having like servlets, JSPs, and we were also having Spring MVC. These are also technologies which are there before Spring Boot is came into picture. So the same has been, I mean, Spring MVC is upgraded with Spring Boot, wherein Spring Boot is specifically giving a new feature called auto configuration. Okay, so this auto configuration, what is auto configuration in Spring Boot, is one of the important questions in your interviews you might be hearing about. So we will learn what is this auto configuration is doing. So to understand what auto configuration is, you have to know what Spring MVC was doing previously. So if at all in Spring MVC, it's a kind of lot of bean creation. Yeah, you might not be understanding what is bean, so we'll explain this part auto configuration little later. So there are some lot of advantages which came with Spring Boot on top of Spring MVC. So that's why in industry most of the people are using Spring Boot now, and Servlet or JSP are also same. It's a very older versions. I think nowadays most of the projects are stopped to using these servlets and JSPs. So these are, and also there will be EJBs, I think. So these are all Java EE frameworks, enterprise edition frameworks, which were uh, heavily used in previous years. But nowadays, most of the projects are moving to Spring Boot and the cloud platform. So, and Spring Boot is like to make any application immediately available for the production. Spring Boot is an easy job to be done, so that you don't need to focus on most of the manual stuff for the developer to do. Okay, so that's why we are using this one. So just have these names in your mind, so that you might not be surprised if you get any questions or if you hear anything from your colleagues once you get into the job. Like these things are older technologies, so they might be not using in the recent days. But if you get any project specific to these technologies, we have to s- go through them in a broader view. But it's okay, as you know, core Java, it's not a big deal. Like you as you have this enough knowledge with core Java, so if any project comes with this skill set, so you will be anyways dealing with methods and exception handling, collections, all these stuffs only at the end. So whatever framework, even though the other frameworks which I've written here, or Spring Boot, or any other framework that is coming with Java, so finally you will be dealing with core Java. Okay, you'll be writing methods, right, handling the exceptions, using collections, or method overloading, overriding, all these concepts you will be using. So so even though the framework name is new, you don't have to worry about. Finally you're doing this job. So you can be ready in a week of time. Once you spend some time on YouTube or something, then you can pick up that specific framework or knowledge. Okay, yeah. And to move forward, Spring Boot, let me create a project. Okay, so these steps are important, so you just have to remember. So Spring initializer. So when you type like this, start.spring.io site will be there. So this site will help you to give a basic project for you. Okay, so to get this project from here, let me do some options. Like you see Gradle, Kotlin, Maven, right? So first thing is I'm going with Maven project. So what is Maven again? Let's try to learn what is Maven on a broader view. Maven is a build tool. Okay, like you see, other than Maven, we also have Gradle here, right? Gradle. So Gradle is also one of the build tool. Okay, what is build tool? Anyone has any idea?
Is to build a project.
Yeah, true. But internally, build a project means what's happening.
Functionalities we no need to write the each and every code. We use like at the rate bean or like that. It will the program will be developed inside that. So using that annotations, we can develop the project. No need to write in detail everything. So
Yeah. But build, but Maven won't be.
okay. Or to build a project, yes. To build a project like when we run, how can I explain?
Okay. Yeah, got you. Yeah, Maven will help us. I mean, to basically, but yeah, let me take answers from other guys as well. So, Kiran, any idea about build tool?
Yeah.
Not heard?
No, Kalyan.
Okay. Sai Kiran?
No idea, Kalyan, regarding that.
Okay, okay. So basically, yeah, again the same story. Even though you learn core Java and some frameworks, so these are some additional flavors which you have to be aware. Uh, um, as we are projecting you as an experienced, right? So these things have to be something like basic stuff. If a person is worked for couple of years, so he must have these skills. Such kind of skills are Maven, and also we will see Git. We'll come to Git little later. Let me. I'll be updating such kind of skill set here, so you can just um, have an idea, and I'll also suggest you what to be done on top of them slowly. Okay, Maven is basically a build tool. Okay, you will not do anything much other than this few commands with Maven. Okay, mvn, there will be commands to perform: mvn clean, mvn install, mvn package, mvn build. Other than this, you might not be doing anything else with this Maven in your real-time job as well. Okay, so what these things will be doing in your project right now. Suppose we have this several classes. Okay, and after we write the code, what we are doing, um, our compiler will be trying to compare. Okay, will is trying to compile the code. Okay, so basically build tools will, what they will be doing is they will compile the code. Okay, generate the bytecode. So these are all the internal functionalities which you even you don't know. That's okay. I mean, you in your real-time job, so you can you're good. I mean, you have to just aware that, so it's compiling and converting this code which you have written into machine understandable language. Okay, and then this particular code which is converted into bytecode, archive. You know archive? What is archive?
Just to say,
Archive.
um, it's story.
No. Any idea? Hi, Kiran. Okay. So archiving is basically, zipping software, right? Like 7-zip, WinZip, WinRAR. So, so that's called archive.
It's
Okay.
like keeping it safe.
Yeah. I mean, you will zip. I mean, you will bundle the files with you.
Okay.
Like there are several archival, like Java archive, which is called jar. Jar expansion is Java archive, and
WinRAR.
WinRAR, WinZip.
Is war will come into this one?
Hmm?
Is a war will also
Yeah,
come into
var. I mean, sorry, that's what. So jar, var, web archive, I think var they will call it as.
yeah.
Tar files will be there.
Time.
Yeah, there's several zipping technologies that applications might be using, or build tools might be using to convert our code into the archived file. But 7-zip, WinRAR, WinZip are the softwares we will be using to extract those
the files.
archived files. Okay, so basically what Maven is doing here is, so suppose we have written these class files here, like example, exchange, executor. So all these are classes. So of course our compiler is compiling by default when you write the code, but when you do MVN, when you execute MVN clean, what happens is it deletes if any archived file is created and make the target folder clean. Okay, and ignore about this. We will see what is it, and I'll explain about it once we complete the initial example. And when install, when you do, so it will compile and execute the test cases, unit test cases if there are any. And then package, and then archives. I don't have to know about these two. That should be fine. MVN update. Archive the application means that will bundle the application to one specific file. Okay, your project might be having 100 class files and hundreds of interfaces. Okay, never mind. So once you do maven install, you will be getting one simple file which is called as a jar, var, or tar file, which is having all the files in it and archiving it into it. Let me see if I have anything here. Okay, I don't have, we will see that, I think. Let's see. Yeah, ignore what is there in this project. Okay, I'll just show you these libraries here. Okay, this library is basically again a jar, right? Let me go into this folder. Cannot go, is it? Yeah, let's go to C directory. Yeah, this is JDK bin folder, right? And JDK folder, and we will have a lib here. The library will be having binaries, DLLs. Should be some jars. Mhm. Okay. Okay. So here, all these files are basically a jar file. Okay. Every package here will have its own code. Okay. Yeah, here you see Jackson module parameter names jar. Okay. So this is one specific file, but it will have lot of classes in it. Okay. I mean, it has only 4, but you will see many classes. Like you see this classmate, faster XML classmate. is having several classes interfaces in it. Okay, like this. So this Maven will be helping us to do that. Okay, Maven will basically archive all your class files which you have written in your project into one simple archival file, and after doing successful compilation. So once the compilation is successful and your unit test cases which you have written are passed. Okay, so unit test cases, if you don't know the terminology, skip it, don't worry. Basically unit tests are we will be using, I mean, this is another one terminology which you have to be aware of. Unit tests, like people will be using JUnit and Mockito technologies to write the unit test cases. So in your project you might be looking at, you might be having this folder called test folder. Okay, you have to write your unit test cases here. So what is a unit test case will be doing is, so suppose we have a method called in this class, let me show you service. Sorry, so this execute method is there. Okay, what a unit test that we have to write here is, so this is one kind of assignment, you can take it for the next session. Third month, JUnit. Unit test cases. Yeah, so what we have to do, I'll simply give an overview so that then you can start analyzing about this unit test cases and writing JUnit and Mockito test cases from your end. Okay, so
Online journey.
Yeah. Okay.
You join from home.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
mine here. So unit test cases, why we have to write basically is to retest our functionalities before we move ahead for archiving this code which you have written. Okay, so why we need these unit test cases is basically to have the confidence. Why am I so
I can. His mic is on.
okay? Kiran, can I mute you?
Yeah, yes, Kalyan.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, nice. This JUnit and Mockito test cases you will be writing to validate if your logic is working fine. And suppose this is why, so you might be keep on writing the code for several enhancements for your future developments, right? So once you write a code and that particular code is not meeting the is not passing the test scenarios and you're trying to deploy, uh, so that might be a problem in the later cases to move forward to the higher environments. So that's why, so we are including this test cases so that when you compile it, if the test cases are passed, then only you can move ahead. So that is why the architecture is like this with Maven. Like these unit test cases that you write, they will be validating with each method. Suppose execute method, I'll try to call this execute method from the unit test cases, okay, and with some sample data, and see if I'm getting the data which is expecting. Suppose when I'm executing, is it executing without erasing any exception or not? So that's my requirement. So that I'll put it in the test case. Like if I call the execute method of Mirada service, then whether that so you don't have to worry about the service and all this stuff. So I'm just explaining. Maybe I'll just take the other example here. Suppose there is a get value. So this get value method. So this get value method, I'll be passing a flag called true or false from my test cases. Okay. And if I call this method with some dummy parameter, so what should be the output? I might be expecting one output. Suppose if I pass true or false here, so based on true, there will be some value be coming, and false, there should be some value to be coming. So I have to write a test case in a way that if I pass test, it has to return this value. Is it matching or not? And if I pass false, and then it should return this value, or it should execute like this, whether it is executing like the same way or not. So that's a basic scenario of writing unit test cases. So people will be writing these unit test cases and saving them, and once Maven is compiling, it's trying to execute all the unit test cases. If they're perfect, then it will proceed further to zip the project. Okay, so coming back to our discussion, so the terminologies we are discussing: Maven and JUnit or Mockito unit test cases. So once they pass these test cases, we will be getting archival file. So to go back, where are we with the Maven of the Spring Boot? Okay, let me take this. Where is it? Initializer. Okay, that's why we are choosing Maven for now. I mean, you can also choose Gradle or any other technology which is helping for your building. Okay, so mostly I saw in my experience Maven will be using for most of the projects as a build tool. Okay, and then Spring Boot version. So you can take any version. I'm just going with the default version. And then project metadata. This is just a naming conventions, like a group, artifact ID, name. I'm just leaving the names as it is here. Okay, I'm not doing anything. Then packaging, you see, so whether you want to package it as a jar or var. Okay, so that is a packaging structure. Because so if you want to make it as a jar, so once you execute the compilation with your Maven, then the result of all the project which you have developed will be coming into a jar file or var file, however you choose. And the Java version, so whichever version you want to choose, you can choose this. I'm just leaving it as default. And the crucial thing while choosing this project and developing this project is dependencies. Okay, so I want to go with Spring Web. So where I'm writing a RESTful APIs, right? So I have told the Spring MVC is one of the technology that is internally used by the Spring Web dependency. And Tomcat is the one embedded server that we will be getting. So with Spring Web dependency. So that's why we are taking this Spring Web dependency. And we are using H2. H2 database is for in-memory database operation performance. So we are just using H2 here. And what else? Yeah, and we have to perform Java Persistence API. That's why Spring Data JPA. We will be using this dependency to communicate between the database and our Java application. So these are the three dependencies that I'm taking here. So if you forget to add any dependency here when you are generating the project, okay, we will see that how to add a dependency later on into our project. Okay, but for now, whatever you feel that are necessary for your project to be there, just add those dependencies, click on generate. So it will generate you a demo project, so which we will be storing, which we can store wherever we want. Let me take it here. Yeah, I have downloaded it. Let me go to this backup. I can see the downloaded one. Next thing is I have to extract it. Like just extracting it into the same folder. And I'll just take it into this code base folder. As part of next step, I'm going to my IntelliJ. Any doubts so far with the discussions? You want to clarify anything? Yeah. So in IntelliJ, I'm directly opening project demo. Click OK. I'm just using this window. Oh, sorry. Not this demo. I have to open the one which we created, right? That is in this folder, code base demo. Click OK. Trust project, this window. Okay. Here is the project which you have created using Spring Initializer. Okay. Let me give what is there in this project, overview of this project. Okay. So first thing, the pom.xml. This is the place we will be having dependencies for our project. So whatever details you have given here, you will be seeing here. Okay, you will be seeing there. Okay, let's see. Group ID is there in com.example. So that's why the name is here. As com.example you have written here, it is here. And artifact ID, whatever you kept here, that is coming. And description is whatever you have written there, that will be coming. Java version 17. I think Java archival mechanism, it should be there. Where it's not there. Maybe they'll be taken care of somehow. Okay, that's not there. You can leave it. Maven, as you chosen Maven, that's why POM is created. Spring Boot version 3.2.3 is created here. And dependencies. Let me go to dependencies tab. You see boot starter data JPA. Yes, so that's why you as you taken this, that dependencies here. And starter web, this is one related to that, and H2 related to this one, and yeah, and some test dependency, it's by default, it came by default. So these are the dependencies. So what are these dependencies are doing? Okay, as we have discussed about Maven, so anything what Maven is doing is helping to build our application, and also read the dependencies and generate the libraries for that dependency. Okay, Spring Data JPA, if you see external libraries here, okay, Let me type data JPA. You see here, Spring Framework Boot, Spring Boot Starter Data JPA. This library is here. Okay. In this library, so you have to assume like how we have demo project now. So this data JPA is also project written by someone and deployed to some server. Okay. So and that is available for Maven to retrieve the class files of that particular package. Okay. So that's basically a dependencies. When you add a dependency, you're getting a group of collections into your project. You're giving the access. You're bringing those list of classes which are available somewhere in the world to get accessible for your project. So that's basically adding a dependency. So when in core Java, when you're writing an application, so you have your own classes and your own logic, so you don't have to worry about it. But when you go with frameworks, it's not like everyone. Suppose if I want to write a bank application, I cannot write all the logic on my own from the scratch to the end. If I wanted to write it, it might take years, right? So we'll be using some standard.
ఇక్కడ ఆ కౌంటర్ మీద సెట్ ఆఫ్ లోషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి, దాని కింద బుక్ ఉన్నది, బ్లూ కలర్ బుక్. ఒకసారి అది ఒకసారి తీసుకోవాలి.
Kiran, can you mute?
వ్యాక్సిన్స్ ది ప్రిస్క్రిప్షన్ ఉంటుంది, నాకు ఒకసారి ఫోటో తీస్తా.
By mistake.
Okay, so yeah, we will be having a lot of classes with our which are pre-built and commonly used applications or projects, so we can use them as part of frameworks. I mean, if we are using Spring Boot, we will have some standard projects with us, so we can just add the dependencies, have those classes available for us. Suppose if we go to data JPA itself, so we were dropped in middle. So meta inf, no classes, is it? It is a jar file. JSON. This is Java archival. I don't know, somehow we are not able to see the classes here into this one. Open every settings, open. Yeah, somehow I'm not able to see the classes here, but assume like this. I mean, it's true, like you will have all the classes inside these packages. Okay, if you extract this jar file using some zipping technology like WinRAR, WinZip, whatever it is, you will see the class files into that. Okay, so those classes are available for us for this project now, so to perform some standard operations. Okay, that's why we are adding dependencies. So if in your project later on, if you feel some logic you want to get, suppose most probably people will be using JSON. Okay, the request data structure will be almost, we will be using JSON. So there will be called a dependency called JSON to get the JSON object. So there will be JSON org.json dependency will be there. So people will be using it. And suppose if you want to perform some standard operations on any date related operations, so then you have to use that particular dependency, so that you will have various benefits out of to perform on the date APIs. So such kind of things we can do by adding them. So you don't have to copy paste that class logic and methods into your code. Okay, you can directly add the dependency so that those classes will be available for you. You just need to call that method from your code. Okay, so that's why we get these dependencies. That's a project overview that we see here. And let me run Maven from here. Uh, version control terminal. I don't know if Maven is working here. MVN is not recognized as the command line. Okay.
MBNW.
Yeah, it's executing. I mean, if I execute from here, it's working. Yeah. You see, we have executed Maven, but there is no target folder here, is it? Okay, we'll explain about that later. You see what Maven has done when I execute, you have observed, right? So here, when I come click on Maven, and then there will be a execute Maven goal. These are all the various goals. If you remember, we have seen Maven install and Maven compile, deploy, package. So all these, most probably we'll use Maven install to build them, and then to build our application so that our application will be built and archived. So you see here, there are some tests executed. Okay, this is the place Maven will be executing all the uh, test cases which are available in your project and download it. So they are downloading these repositories, okay, from the remote Maven repository, central repository. Okay, let me see. I think now you should see at least the target folder is now here. See, generated sources. Demo.jar has been created. And now if I open external libraries and go to JPA, yeah, we can see the project now extracted, right? So once you execute Maven install, it is extracted all the class files, and those class files are here for us. See, you see, this class is here. It's just asking some authorization to see this particular decompiled class. So it is showing dot class file, but our IntelliJ is trying to show the Java code of this dot class file, whatever is there behind this dot class file. So when you execute, when you compile a Java file, so dot class file is the result of it, and jar file is a combination of such dot class files that is here. So when you write a dependency and do Maven install, so all the compiled class files will be available in your class path, so that you can execute those methods directly from your project. That is the internal thing. And yeah, and then when you compile your project, your project is also generating the classes. Okay, so in SRC you will have the main class, right? Demo application. So for this demo application, you will see the class file here. Okay, so when you open class file, you see the logic of it using the IntelliJ decompile. The same logic is there in the demo application.java, so which is decompiled by IntelliJ. It is also showing the same logic here. Okay, getting it, or any confusions?
When you build a project, it created a one target folder and all that classes, what are the classes we used in the naming method. So all that classes were generated in the
Target folder.
Target
Yeah, yeah, true. So Sai Kiran, any doubts so far?
Okay.
No, Kalyan.
Okay, good. So what Maven is doing, can Sai Kiran answer in our project now?
So, Maven, it is clean the data, all the things, and whatever the file we have created in the zip, by using the Spring initializer. After that, the code will be run. At the time, it clean the data, all the things.
Okay. It's not only cleaning.
Uh,
Yeah, we will also use it for building our
Yes.
application. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So right now we have this target folder, right? Let me try to execute this another command from Maven. Okay. Uh, there's another command. I'm trying to use this. This Maven clean command, right? Execute it. You have to tell me what is done now. What happened in our project?
target folder.
Physics.
Yeah, correct. Let me see if this changes. Okay, these are already compiled. Okay, if you have monitored here, if you have observed here, we don't have the target folder now. Okay, so once we execute the clean, what it is doing is, as we discussed here, as I have already written the,
Delete the file.
yeah, it will be Maven clean. It deletes archived files which are created and make the target folder clean. Okay, so that we will be doing. So in most of your day-to-day activities, to build your application. Okay, so main thing is, suppose you want to deploy your application. Now this application, the demo project which we have written, is in our local, right? It is right now in my mission. Okay, I wanted to deploy this application to the other environment, which is as part of software lifecycle we have learned, right? uh, we have seen this one, development, test, production. Right now our application is in this stage. Okay, like how we were writing prime number program, which was there previously in the local. And suppose later point of time, if you want to deploy it to a dev environment, so you cannot place the source code, which is the .java files, directly into that particular environment, right? So you have to place the executable files. What is executable file? The compiled file of java.java will give a class file. So that class file is an executable file. So you have to place that particular class file in a remote, the other environment where you want to execute it. So the development, test, or the production, they are also like a missions like our laptops. Okay, but they'll be having huge features of memory based or processor based, so that they have to handle a lot of requests. Okay, so they will also be having some folder structure, like how we open our Windows, this PC, and C drive, D drive. Similarly, they will also have folder structures. So these classes that we have written in our local folder, so we have to place them. So when you're placing them, so you cannot, suppose if you have thousands of classes, you cannot copy thousands of classes one by one to that folder, right? So you have to zip it. For zipping it, this Maven is helping us. Okay, and you are zipping them, and then once the zipped file is created into the target folder, that particular file you are deploying, you can deploy. Okay, Let me try to do maven install again. In your day life, you will be mostly using these two commands. Okay, clean to clear the target folder, install to create the target folder and compile all your classes. If there are any new dependencies, download those dependencies into your local repository and then make them available for your program execution. Create a target folder, zip your file and save it into here. So now question to Sai Kiran, sorry, not Sai Kiran, the Kiran. If you want to deploy this demo application to the dev environment, what you will do?
I mean, we do have some commands in the Maven, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have already executed the commands.
No, Kalyan, I'm not sure.
Okay, so for deploying, yeah, deploy term might be very, I mean, we do, as we have never heard, we might be new. So we feel that that's a new term. Okay. Um, so, but the, the thing we need to know about the deploying is just placing our code into the remote environment. Okay, remote environment, which might be either of these things. Okay, so now if I wanted to deploy this particular application, suppose the development environment, I have to just take this file, the file which I have highlighted. Hope you can see it. Demo 001 snapshot jar. Okay, so how do you know this file you have to deploy? By looking at the pom.xml. In the pom, you will see the configuration, version, group, artifact ID. Artifact is something you have to look for. Okay, like I have this artifact demo and version as this one. I have to look for target folder where I have this file. Okay, demo, and this is the version. This is the file. You have to hold it to deploy to the next environment. Okay, you don't care about other files that are there in your project, whatever it is, everything will be there in this file. Okay, you want to see, if you want to see this, you can directly go to, let me try to open this demo target, this file. I'm just copying it, putting in the downloads folder, trying to extract it. Hmm. I don't know if this allows. It's a kind of executable file, right? Don't wait. Open with
Compressed zip. Oh, sorry.
compressed zip. Okay.
Try to open it. Let's see if it opens like a WinRAR and asks for to extract.
No, there is no software for me to see. That's why. Yeah, yeah. Let me try to install one quickly. But the ultimate result of this jar file, which we have extracted from our project folder, will be the same what we see here. Okay, you see target folder has classes, right? So whatever you see in this target folder, the same classes folder you will see once you extract it. See, you will have this com examples demo application. Same way how you have here com example demo application. So the same architecture you will see in this jar file. So when you're deploying it, you have to carry this one. So it will bring all the libraries. You see, you will also be binded with the generated sources. You will also be binded with all the external libraries that you see here. Okay. The external libraries that we have dependencies and all we have written in a pom.xml. So when you build it, those libraries will also be coming into this jar file. So this jar file will have everything. Okay. So if someone, once you joined, suppose someone asks you to deploy a project, deploy this application to dev environment. So you might not know what to do, right? So still you need some details from your colleagues who asked you to deploy it. Okay. You don't have to worry. You know what to do. You know what to do is, I mean, the thing what to do is you have to deploy this particular application, which is there in the target folder. Which file to see? You have to see the artifact name in the pom.xml. That artifact name you have to search in the target folder, which will be directly looking at the as a file like this. Okay, you don't have to search in all the classes test these folders. You can ignore. You can directly see. You will see the name. Once you execute maven install, this file will be generated here. So that file you have to carry and ask the steps how to deploy. I mean, if it's a cloud-based application, once you push your code, it will be deployed. And if it's not cloud-based application, so what happens is there will be some steps which you have to manually execute it. Okay, so you have to place this file in some folder of your, like how I copied it to downloads. So you have to do the same thing and then initiate the steps of deployment. Yeah, that's what you have to do. Let me maybe 7-zip. Where is it? Is it downloaded? Okay. Install, close.
Everybody have the access to deploy the code.
Yeah,
Okay.
not actually. Some teams they'll be handling the deployment by a specific team, like DevOps team will be there. They'll be doing the deployment, and some teams they'll be having CI/CD pipelines. So once you push your code, you don't know what is pushing your code. I mean, basically, when you use Git, we will see that once you push your code, your code will be placed in the remote repository. Okay, so the source code that is placing your source code in the remote repository. So once you trigger it, your CI/CD pipeline, which is configured by DevOps team, will be reading these triggers. Which we latest version of code I have received, I have to initiate the deployment. So that will taken care by system. So yeah, once I install the 7-zip, let me try to extract it with this one. Close the Microsoft tab. Hmm. Okay, or I have one thing. Let me try to do it. Command line jar legal option D. Okay, I think I have to see how to extract this, but this is the one which you have to deploy, and this will have all the code. Okay, that you wanted to deploy. We'll see and let you know how to extract this. Okay. Moving ahead. So now we have got the project that we wanted to work with, and this is where the build, how it works. Yeah, let me go to the go to write an APIs. Okay, so we have a main class here, right? src main java has this com example demo, and then I will be going to this structure of writing code called controller service repository. Now, our goal of writing this, as we have already written down somewhere, what is that? Yeah, balance maintenance. Okay, so let me create a controller package. Balance maintenance. Let me take an account object. Okay, and I'll try to perform the operations to the database for that specific account. Okay, account is one table which I'm going to create. So as part of this architecture here, I'll be having account table in the database. Okay, I'm managing all the CRUD operations like adding a balance, removing a balance, and removing an account holder, adding an account holder, something like that. I'll try to handle it with backend. Okay, UI is something. Um, uh, so they'll be triggering the backend API. Okay, for those details, and it's up to them how to handle it. Okay, whoever develops the UI, so that they'll take care of how to handle these APIs, how to retrieve this data, etc., and populate to their screens. But we can provide all the services that they need from the Java API. Here, so first thing, I'm going to create a package which is com example demo controller. So in the controller, remember when you write a Spring Boot application, all the packages or classes which you want to be available or executed in this project have to be under the package where this demo application, which is a main method class, will be there. Okay. Yeah. So you have to take care where this class files have to be there. Yes. So then let me put the controller class, and I'll write a class name like account controller. So annotations are again a kind of classes you can assume, like, so this REST controller is one class, so it will bring some features of, I mean, what this particular class has to do, and it should behave like one of the REST controller type of class, something like that. So these annotate, when you define REST controller annotation on a class, so it means that this account controller will be having some features to act as a controller class. Okay, and then request mapping is one annotation again. where you can declare a path of a I'm just writing any path you can put. Okay. APIs, just API. And then initially I'll write hello. As I said, API is at the end is going to be a method again. Okay. So hello. So what a method will have? A method will have access specifier, like what we discussed, like public, private, static, whatever it is. Sorry, public, private, default, or protected. And then return type. Right now I'm just returning a string. Hello is one, and it's up to us which type of mapping we wanted to make. So I'm just writing get mapping for now. And again, you have to write the URL, like what is the URL name. And
So
then,
which one is the endpoint now? Yeah, API/API/hello.
yeah, it will be concatenation of these two, /API/hello. Okay, it's up. I mean, it's up to us. I think even we don't write it, it will work. But to differentiate this particular class, if you have 4 or 5 classes, okay. So, and if you want to have same endpoint for other class as well, and to differentiate them, we will use specific. For each class, there will be one. Right, I can write account better. So return, just writing hello API endpoint is called. Okay. Yeah. So we have written our first API. Okay, to just return hello message. So let me start the server and see if there are any errors. To start the server, we have to right click on the main and click on the demo main application. .8.0.8.0 was already in use. Who is using it?
We can change the port number, right, Kalyan? Or else
Yeah, we can change it, but I'm just wondering who is using it, because no. Okay. Hmm. That's the one. Okay. Console window host.
I think you have to restart IntelliJ.
Yeah, maybe. Let me try that. Trying to rerun it. Yeah, somewhere where we have written 8080. So settings XSD has 8080. Is this the place from where it is reading? Let me try by
Like,
change.
bring the pom.xml file to change the port number and all.
No, POM won't be having port number. POM will only have. POM will not have port. Mm, let me quickly see.
Yeah.
Application properties. Yeah.
Case properties file. Sorry. In the application properties,
Server dot port. Okay. We have to write specifically server dot port like 8082 for now is equals to, right? Let me try to rerun. Yeah. So now the application is started. And it should be running on the port 8082. Let me see where it is shown. Yeah, Tomcat started on port 8082. Okay, with context path, something like this. So now our goal is to see whether our API is being triggered or not, right? So let me open Postman. And I'll write 82. So using Postman is something also you have to get hands on. Okay, this is another thing which you might be having hands on with, like Maven, unit test cases, Git. Postman is also one thing. Okay. So here, so when you click on plus symbol, you will get a new request. Okay, you can name it the request name however you want. Later we can see that. Yeah, which option to choose here?
Get.
Yeah, why get?
Get mapping.
Yeah, we have done get mapping for our API. So we have to choose get request here, and the API name. So basically, we are not using any security, right? http://. So as it is in our local machine, we are using local host. What's the port number?
802.
8082. And API endpoint will be, so as we have request mapping as account, then we have to write account. Then as we have hello for our method to be called, then I have to write hello. So we are not expecting any details to be passed for this method. So it's okay. We need not to do anything. And if that is authorization, if there is any authentication that is required, then we have to do this. But right now we are not doing any authentication. So let me click send. See what it will do. Could not send request.
It is not in debug mode.
No. Why is that? Get address in
Local host. You said local.
Yeah, that's the thing. Localhost. Yeah, we got the response, right? So this is the way to call API from Postman. Okay, so we will be doing a lot of exercises like this. So localhost, let me delete it, and we can rename our API. No. I can create a folder. Workspace. History. Okay, Lightweight API client. Okay, you cannot rename it here. Yeah, for now. So this is how we have to call. Okay, so when you call this, what is giving? Whatever you're returning from this API, so that is just showing that message. Okay, so let's have some break. I'll be back. Okay.
Okay, we have to pretend that we know everything, like which word before. Because I just said, same with me. You say you have to tell like where you work and everything. If you don't have any, I can be another technology services. I can say we can. Service. Did you try test cases in Selenium? Yes. Even I tried. You have worked together? No. No. I don't. You have another ticket? I think Jitendra is also going to do. I think so. Yeah, same. When they are coming back, you know, the full day they have until 4 p.m. Oh, okay. I think my husband is doing only one match, I think so, because we have his marathi class. We have function there. Oh, okay. He's also complicated.
Yeah. Clear so far? Kiran and Sai Kiran? Any doubts?
No,
Yes,
no,
clear. No.
Okay. So far we have created a controller package with us, right? So now coming back to our agenda is to communicate with the database. Okay. Where is that? Yeah. To perform current bank balance maintenance, right? With the account. So this is sample API I've written. Now let me write. Yeah, let me add an account. Mapping public. Account add. Okay, now I wanted to add account. So I have given post mapping. So there is some convention to write these mappings. Okay, so let me write them here under postman. Like get mapping, when you have to write mapping method as get if you want to read any data. Okay, post whenever we want to add any data or save. Put any idea? Updated it. Delete. Yeah, name says deleting the data. There is patch and other types, so you can explore, but these are very commonly used. Okay, terms with respect to request mappings. So right now, I want to return an account, right? So that's why I'll create an entity class. So create a new package, entity. rename it one. Then I'll create class called account. Okay. Usually the account will have ID and the name of the account holder, and I'm writing it as balance. And even though this is the terminology with Postman, so some cases people will repeatedly using post mapping because they won't prefer get, because get requests is not most secure than post, because they might be uh, get request might expect the data to be passed. Okay, and if some data, if we don't want to pass and want to be visible in the network, then we will make it post so that the data won't be available in the URL. Okay, I will come to that later. So right now account entity is ready. I am trying to make it, I have to import class. Okay, why are we importing the class here? Can anyone answer?
Because that is in another package.
Yes, true. Yeah, account class is not in the current package, right? So we are in right now, the current package here is demo.controller. The account is in the different package. And scope of the account class, what is the scope of the account class? Data?
Phone number.
No. Scope. This. Like,
Public.
yeah. Yeah, which is public here. And that is in a different package. So as it is not in the current package, to access it, we are writing import statement of that account class. So returning the account from here. So to return an account, basically I have to return the account, right? Once it is added, then I have to tell this account has been added. Okay, I might need to return account.
A capital, I guess.
Yeah, A is capital, but this is a variable we are going to return. We will see this return statement later. Okay. As I have told, first thing, when we get a call, that will be coming to the controller. And we have an entity. Okay. We need to have a service class to execute business logic, right? So we will get a call to here. So like I will say save. Okay. And we need to get request body. This is also an annotation which indicates that, so this account has to become coming in the body, which is, you see here, we have to declare this structure here. Okay, come to that. So that is the account. Yeah, then we will go to this account model. So here we have to add few more annotations. like table name, entity class, and this ID we wanted to make it as primary key. For that, we have to have generated value and also ID. These are all the annotations which are coming with this dependencies which we have added. Okay, so these are the things, and then I'll be creating service package to write the business logic. Com dot example dot service. Why is this like this? Okay. Let me rename it just to service. Service class, and we will have to annotate this as with service annotation. So this package will be, I mean, these classes will be handled by Spring. I mean, so which is service class, which is the entity class. So Spring might not be aware. So that's why we're putting these annotations. When you write these annotations, it is clear for Spring as well. Like these classes will be our service classes. Okay. And then another package which we have to create is repository to interact with the database. Java class package repository. In this package, we will write account repository. Again, the annotation is repository. Oh, sorry. We have two repositories in interface here. Repository. And we are planning to extend another interface. Extends JPA repository. So account is a type. And then log. So I have to import the account class here. So why is this written all this stuff here? So repository, this is a template of code that we have to write, right? So that our code will take care about performing the operations internally with the database. Okay. So you don't need to write all the database connection logic, queries, etc. with JPA and Hibernate. Okay. That will take care of performing all the executions with the database. Okay, for now you just assume like this is some dummy code we have written. Okay, and we are using that in the upcoming logic. We'll get a picture at the end. Okay, then what else? Yeah, so coming back to our controller, so we are here. I have to have a service. I have to because from the account controller I have to call the service, right? I have not written it as account service. Okay. Rename. Okay, so account service is here. So let me write a method in the account service. So to write the account service method, I have to write the auto void annotation to get this account repository. Okay. And in the account class also I have to write getters and setters, right? So to do that, right click, generate constructor without anything, and then generate getters and setters. With those two things. This class is ready. And then from the service class, now I wanted to save account, right? So this method has to return account ID, which is long type. Otherwise, for now, we can skip this service part. Directly put this there. As we are not writing much business logic, trying to put it here. It's okay, let it be. So what is auto void? Anyone has any idea? Account repository. Account public. Account repository dot save.
I mean, instead of creating an object and all, we can use @autovide.
Yeah. There is a concept called, I mean, this is also one of the interview question you will be hearing repeatedly. Yeah, that's true. I don't know one sec. So let me write it somewhere here. Okay. Auto void annotation. So, and dependency injection. So in core Java, when you want to instantiate any object, what we will do? Can anyone answer?
We'll be creating a new object and then.
Yeah. we are instantiating that object using new keyword, right? But here, instead of doing that every time, so you can use auto void annotation so that the packages which are there here, suppose in this case, account repository is already available in our class path. So that repository type of object, I mean, we are not instantiating this. Account repository is an interface, right? So you cannot instantiate the interface. But our Spring is providing an object for this account repository implementation. Okay, so that related object instantiation, which you don't know what is that, and you want to have that object with you at that particular time, you can have auto void annotation, right? So then when you declare auto void annotation, this whatever object that is internally created by Spring or framework is assigned to this variable default by default. Okay, your variable will be loaded with the actual object internally. So you remember we were calling some methods directly with interfaces when you're learning core Java. So we can use the same way here. So Spring is assigning the object to it. We're directly calling the methods using it. Whatever is a save implementation. So when you open a save method here, account repository won't have the implementation for it, but the assigned object which is passed to this variable will have the implementation. Okay. Yeah, right now we need to have account, right? Now let me create new account. So we know here what is this account is, so that's why I'm just, but in real time we don't need to write a new account data as well here. So that might be coming from the user. So then I have to pass account dot get name comma account dot get balance. Expected 0 arguments. We don't have any constructor in account class. Generate constructor okay. Let me take this. Okay. Now our service class is ready. So whatever the data that we are receiving for the save method, we are populating it in a new account object and directly passing it. I think we can directly pass it. We don't need to write it. Yeah, we don't need it. Okay. Then before this, what is there? The controller right then. Now we are calling a service here. Public account service. I'm just auto wiring it as well. Because account service instantiation will be done and that will be available with the account service object. So in the save, I'm just return account service dot save of account. So that will be returning a log. Why is it long here? Why are we returning long?
The package we declared it as long.
Yeah, because save is going to return a long based account number. Okay. Right. Is going to provided account. No instances of type variable exist, so that account conforms to long. Required type. Required type long provided account. It's giving account type, is it? Okay, let me put account type. Then controller also we have to maintain it as account. Okay. Now that object which you pass. Yeah. So what is the agenda of all the code that we have written? Just in a quick overview. So we have a controller, we are receiving account object, and we are calling the save from the service class. And there we are executing using repository, so which is interacting with the database. And save is performing this, save is also receiving the account object, and that is executing to save into the database. So let's try to execute this request. Again, Postman, new request. So which method we have to use here? Post. And then HTTP localhost. And instead of hello, I'm using save. Because we are accepting request body as account here, and the body we have to use raw and make JSON here. Okay. And also we have to look at the account structure at this time. Okay. So when you're passing account structure, so ID is generated value, you don't have to worry about it. And the name, pass name is equals to, and the double quotes you have to write. And put some stats. And balance. It's a decimal. Let me put 30,000. So balance. Okay. So that should be the one. Let me try to trigger it. Says 4, not 4. Because we have not started the server, right? Restart is not done with the latest code. So when you get 4, not 4, which means that this error indicates the service that you are trying to hit is not available at all. So we have only one service so far which is deployed to server, is the hello service, hello API. Okay. Demo application again. This API is available so far. If I hit hello now, that it will be working. That should be working, right? But not this. So to make it available, we have to redeploy to the application, which means here restarting. Yeah. Here IntelliJ will take care when you reinstall. So it will by default reboot, rebuild and redeploy to this server, embedded Tomcat server. So let me stop and run. So server is started. We try to trigger it. So it's saved, I think.
రాంగ్ సెలెక్ట్ చేయాలి మనకి.
Yeah, ఇక్కడ ఇదా
యా ఇక్కడ లెఫ్ట్ లో.
అవసరం లేదు, వచ్చేసింది ఆ డేటా, రిటర్న్ లో డేటా వచ్చింది. But we need to ensure that whether it is saved or not. Looks like
I mean, at the return type, we can just mention like, I mean, the account is saved and all, right? So
yeah. So what did you say, Kiran?
Just a
I
code.
mean, if the data is been entered, we can just return as it's been saved successfully like that.
Yeah, I mean we can return, but now we are just returning the account which is saved. But the thing is, we need to see if it is really saved to database or not. So to see that, let me go to the URL, which will be H2. For H2, there will be H2 console URL. So as it is 8082 we are running, let me try to. So this is the database, okay? It's not running.
I mean, we didn't kept the Hibernate, like, I mean, the MySQL credentials and all, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we are using H2 based embedded, right? So that will give us an in-memory database for our application. But the thing is, we have to declare the configuration for that. For, I mean, same way like you said, like for other database, we have to also configure the H2 configuration here. So, which is so if you see here, we have to write this to get the access to H2 enable, right? We have to put this in the application properties. And then data source username, password. This will be automatically taken care. If the port number is necessary, let me try if it works without port number declaration. Demo application, stop and read up. It is started. You see here, when you hit it, you are able to access some console here. Okay. Now let's go to our console. We will have a JDBC URL which is printed here. Okay, you see here, database available at this URL. You have to take this URL and give the URL here. Wherever it's asking for test connection, test is successful, connect. Okay, you see account table is created. Account table is created because account table will be created when you declare the entity itself. When you execute it, yeah, balance ID name, there are columns, but nothing is inserted into it. Okay, it's not inserted. Let me see where we went wrong. Persist, I think we have to do persist operation. We'll go to account service. Um, they will be doing it. The account I've given generated value ID. Entity class. Hmm. Let me see something which can. I'll try to add some debug statement to this and also see if I can get SQL statements with the application properties. This one give the SQL statements which are printing. This will give the debug statements. Try to, okay, maybe before that, let me trigger one more time. It's not returning the ID, which means it's not created. So see unconditional enable started application. Did not find any beans with JDBC Xdata source wrapper on class condition. Okay, too much debug statements. Let me avoid it. Try to redeploy. So users. So it's just passing and saving. So ideally this is correct. So create table account balance ID not null. Name varchar primary key ID. What is generated value? Drop table. If you see this, all SQL queries have been executed in the logs. We can see that Hibernate is executing drop table if account is already exists. Okay, if account table is already available, then it will drop it and create a table with account called balance table name, the column name as balance, ID and name of type these things. Okay, table is creating. Let's try to trigger the service now. So I'm calling insert, select next value, insert into account balance. So it is being done. Let's try to see in the H2 console. H2 console. So every time you restart, the URL will be updated. Okay. So now the URL is this one. We take this URL and try to execute it here. I'll update this URL and connect. Yeah. A row is inserted. We have not done anything special. Maybe we have not executed save again. Okay. But when you call this, why is it not returning with ID? So yeah, maybe we are not returning the account which is created. Let me go to the code. Account is created, get name, balance. Okay, there is no getter for ID. That's why. Generate getters and setter for ID long. Okay, let me restart this. Okay. Now I'm going to Postman to change the value. Okay, let it be. Now we're getting ID. Okay. So this time I'll add 5 and 30,005. It is also added with ID 2. Suppose if we are giving my employer solutions, try to execute. So we should have 3 entries in the database now, right?
So we just need to change in this thing.
Yeah.
This one.
Which
If
one?
it's change here, it will be added one more.
Yes. I mean, even you don't change, it will add one more because our functionality is not
Oh,
doing
okay.
anything.
So
Okay.
if I want like 10 of them, I just need to change here, like name and balance.
Yeah, if you execute multiple times, that's
Edit
how
it,
you
yeah.
you will write your API.
Okay.
Okay, if your API is blocking them,
Mhm.
if suppose name is duplicate, you don't want to add an entry,
Mhm.
then it won't add. So now we have we should have 7
7,
entries. Let me go to the database. So you see here in the console, it's printing all the insert statements which are executed to the database.
I think we should run again to save them.
No,
Oh, it just works.
no, it is already saving.
Okay.
It is just showing us as we have enabled these loggers in the properties file. So show SQL true. As you have written this, it is just showing for you. These statements have been executed, something like that. Okay, let me go to the console and take the URL of the JDBC. I think this won't be working, but let's try. It won't work. We have to take the latest URL from here. So that's the only problem with this. Anytime you restart, you have to get the latest URL. But as a training purpose, I'm just showing this. You can try to install your own like MySQL, which will be free, and then configure it in the application.properties. You will be able to handle it. So when I open account and run, we see 7 entries here. Okay, all the entries which are added. So that is how we perform the save operation. Suppose if you want to perform, if you want to learn any SQL statements, right? Select from account table where you have ID is equals to ID greater than 3, something like this. Yeah, you'll get 4 records, right? So I mean, on top of it, only you can practice SQL. You don't need even, it's okay even you cannot install MySQL in your system. You can keep your server running and start executing and practicing here. Okay. Let me write another API. So right now we have added we have created API to save an entry, right? Now I will have to write an API get, okay, which is HTTP localhost 8082. Instead of account save, list accounts. Okay, account/list. This API I'm writing. When I'm executing this, what error we will get? 404. Why 404?
It's not in that.
Yeah, there is no list API available. So as a first step, we'll start writing the list API. So now you can look at it, what we are doing step by step again. So API name is list, so the call will come here. So as a method name should not be duplicate, I'm just writing other name. So we don't need any parameters to get the list of the accounts available. So I'm just writing it, and then so list accounts on my custom method, I'm writing here. As we don't have custom method here, so I need to go to account service and create a method called list accounts. So, or you can also do control click on this, then list accounts will be created here. So from here again the same thing, list accounts, right?
Definitely.
And this has to return list of accounts. Okay, and the service here have to be yes, and this is also have to updated with list of account. Okay. So list is a util class you have to import, and return statement account repository. So this account repository is a crucial class here. Okay, this is doing all the magic. So when you go inside this method, it is an interface still, so it's taking an entity. We need to see, is there any method to get the list of these things, right? So find all should be giving you the list of all entities, all rows on this table. Okay, so let me do find all. Okay,
Import.
import class. Yeah, list accounts is done, and we have configured in the service using repository. That's all. Once you restart, then this API should be working. Okay, so we started. Now I'll first execute this list API. Let's see what response. 405. Why 405? It says method not allowed. So when you come to the controller, you see post mapping here. Okay, and we're trying to call it as get. Okay, when we change it to get mapping, you should be executing this. Oh, but still we have to redeploy it, right? So why we are redeploying? Because our latest code is not available in the server. This Postman is blindly communicating with the server, right? Now we don't have any records because after restarting, our data will be wind up. That is the in-memory database. So let me do adding one entry here. One entry is added. So when I do list all, I'll get one entry here. So suppose if I add TCS, then second entry is added. Then when I execute list all, you should get 2 records. Okay, that's why. So this is how the APIs will be working. Then you can write whatever logic you want. Suppose now you can guide me writing another API to delete a specific HTTP localhost, then I want to write delete ID 1, something like that. Okay, I want to delete where the ID is 1 from the list, right? Then when I execute this, we will be getting 404 because this service is not available. Let's go there and write this API. So we have to change it from, yeah, delete mapping, delete, and then there is ID. Okay, this is called a path variable. Okay, if you mention it like this, which means there is some dynamic flower braces. If you write something like this, so there is some dynamic value which will be coming to this API. Okay, and as part of ID. So, and your method has to accept that. Okay, and once you let's return the list of accounts. Okay, once it is deleted, let's see the available list. Okay, and then here ID should be of type long ID. So return account service, not delete. Okay, delete of ID. There is no method in the account service with delete, so I'm creating it. This is here we are receiving ID, then return account repository dot. Let's see what is the delete function is there. Okay, delete is there, but we need to have delete by ID. Okay, then I have to pass ID. What it is returning? So it's not returning anything, so we will just return void. Okay, then we will validate, so we don't need to return anything. Okay, and the caller also we will just delete. We'll just do the call and we'll validate with other API. Okay, whether it is deleted or not. Yeah, I think we are good. Let me try to redeploy. Kiran and Sai, Kiran, hope you are getting any doubts?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm good, Kalyan.
Yeah.
Okay. So server is started. Let me try to directly trigger this delete. Okay. What response will be getting? 500. Why 500?
Internal server.
Yeah, because after restarting, again the same story, right? Our server will not have any records. Okay, when it's not finding any record with ID 1, then it's failing. Let me try to add a record. Okay, using save API. So save API, one record is added. So when you execute list API, you will see one record. And if I'm trying to delete one, oh, it's still giving 500. Something is wrong. Let's go to see logs. The given ID must not be null. It's not null, right? Oh, okay. I have not annotated it. So you have to write path variable here. Okay. So path variable, if you write, so then it will look for the variables from the path. Okay, let me try. Started. Let me add a record and try to delete it and see if it is there. Okay. Yeah, 200 success. Now when I execute the list will be empty, right? As it is deleted. Yeah. Same way you can try any other customization which you want. Okay. And suppose if you want to add a balance, add some balance, same way you have to take balance either through path variable or through request body, however you're comfortable. Then pass it to some method, write some business service there, like get the existing logic, existing balance, add some balance, populate something like that. This way you have to deal with. So SQL, you guys are aware about SQL?
Yeah. I had a subject in person called
Oh,
SQL.
okay. So I think that should be more than enough for SQL. You guys can. There will be a website called W3 Schools.
Yeah,
Hope you are aware, right?
Even Geeks for Geeks.
Yeah. They'll have all the tutorial kinds. So you can from the